Hello, everyone. This is Micah from edeneyetarot. Today, I'm here to talk to you about Gemini season and all the craziness that we're going to see happening as we move further into this season of the twins. Before I get started, I do just want to ask everybody, how's your Gemini season going so far? I know for me personally, it's been insane. I'm trying not to pull my hair out here with all the stuff that's been going on in Gemini season, but it's definitely been a very active Gemini season in general. With the Mercury retrograde going on, with the Sun Mercury Cazimi that we had, it's just been wild. And I know I've heard from quite a few people and clients that this Gemini season so far has been insane. So I'd love to hear from you guys down in the comments about how your Gemini season is going. And without further ado, we are going to get into this. So we are going to be talking about, I'm just going to be talking about some of the major things that are happening during Gemini season. I did a video like this in Aries season where I talked about day by day of Aries season. I'm not going to do that because that video became really long. And so I'm not going to do that for this video or for this season, or I guess, technically anymore. But I am going to go through some of the major aspects that we're going to be seeing with this season and talking about those so we can kind of get a general idea of what's happening. I'll be doing a separate video on the actual new moon in Gemini that's coming up on the 30th. And then later do a full moon video on the full moon in Sagittarius later in the season as well, and be talking about that one. Because that one will actually be coming up on that square that we're going to be seeing with Saturn or with Neptune in the trine to Saturn in Aquarius. And so this is going to be more of a generalized kind of video where we're talking about the season of Gemini and some of the major aspects that are happening during Gemini season. But also, if you stay till the end, we'll be talking about the actual tarot for the 12 signs. We're going to go through all the card stuff. So let's get into this. So I have to bring my notes up because there is a lot of stuff that we have to cover. So mainly I want to talk about two things. The sun is in Gemini, of course, but whenever I look at a season and kind of getting the general feel for it, I look for major aspects like a sextile, like a trine. So the biggest thing that we will see actually pretty quickly during Gemini season is going to be that sextile that we have with Mars in Aries and Jupiter in Aries. And that's really going to be amping things up quite a bit. So I don't know if, I guess you should remember, but when we had Pisces, all the planets in Pisces, and between Pisces and Taurus season, everything felt like it was going so slow, and things just kind of were moving at their own pace. Nothing was really getting done quickly. However, that is very different in Gemini season. Like I said, I kind of love how we're having almost this extended Gemini season with Mercury being retrograde in Gemini, and then going back into Taurus, and then coming back into Gemini. And so it is kind of we're having this extended Gemini season. But with that being said, Gemini season, it kind of kicks things into hyperdrive, things that, we had the time to really be able to mull over and imagine or dream, or things that were very much in the planning stages when all those planets were between Pisces and Taurus. We are getting to go ahead and move on now. With that sun and Mercury, I did a little short on the Sun Mercury Cazimi that already happened, but it will be happening again relatively soon. Mercury moves pretty quickly, and so we'll be having that again. And so if you're very curious about that Cazimi, look at my shorts. I did it on TikTok, but I also posted it on my personal YouTube. I don't know where this would be posted to. Whether you're watching this on the Mystical Illuminations channel, you can catch it on the TikTok, or on my TikTok, or if you're watching it on my personal YouTube page, I think I posted it there as well. But so I talked about the Mercury cazimi and what to expect. And so since I already did a video on that one, I'm not going to be covering it in this video. I'm more going to focus on the energy with the trine to Saturn and the square to Neptune, and then of course the sextile to Aries, because that's going to move things extremely quickly. We'll actually be talking about a lot of that when we do talk about the new moon in Gemini. But a brief kind of overview of that sextile between the sun in Gemini and the sextile to Jupiter and Mars and Aries is going to be, things are really heating up as far as like how fast things are moving, how fast things are clicking. When you think about Aries energy, it is about pioneering things. It's about new things. It's about, a new start, a new beginning, things like that. It's a cardinal fire sign, and so it's really going to have like that impulsivity. It's Mars ruled, and so it's going to pack a bit of heat. It can cause some conflict, but what I love about that Mars Jupiter conjunction in Aries is that it moves things forward. It can really help to connect you with people, especially when we are talking about that trine to Gemini. It's about connection and network. And so not only will we see with this sextile, a lot of people may be being faced with some sort of decision that they're going to have to move on right now, but we're also going to see maybe a lot of impulsive words being thrown around. I guess like the negative side of this could be like, arguments are created maybe from people only seeing one side of the argument, or like only seeing their side of an argument, moving too quickly, or not taking time to even consider consider the consequences of something, or to consider how something might be affected in the long run. I could also see, expanding your network, expanding who you know. Gemini is so much about who you know, but that sextile with Aries' energy is also like, what do you do as well? And so it's really nice because you're going to have to make those logical, I think at its best, it's like making quick, logical, precise decisions. That also means that you're going to have to, cut some things off. Gemini is a double-bodied air sign. And so it's all about transition. It's all about change and cycle. When you're going through some sort of change, you can't keep everything, especially with that sextile to Mars. Mars is about severing things. And so you have to cut some things off to be able to have that new beginning, to be able to completely, be present in a new relationship with a new network, or with a new group of people, or, getting to know a new, a new place of study, or like, a new program of study, or new information, getting really familiar with that. You need to have the space and the mental capacity to be able to be completely there. And so that sextile with Mars and Jupiter is not only expanding network and who you know and what you need to move on, but it's also really focusing in on what needs to be done as well, which is nice. I think it's like one of the nicer aspects. What I would say definitely is to be very careful at home, especially when we get to that new moon in Gemini. Be very careful, like around at home, like around sharp things, or like with fire. That sextile can maybe create, like, maybe you're cutting up vegetables and you nick yourself with a knife. That's very much that Sun in Gemini sextile Mars and Aries. It's like literally nicking yourself on like a knife or something like that, or some sort of like weapon of like domestic life. But let's see. Other than that, we also have the Sun trine Saturn in Aquarius. Now, this won't be happening like obviously right now. I think it's like closer to the end of Gemini season, like that last week. If I'm not completely, I wrote down the dates. I do believe, don't quote me though, it's like through June 14th through the 17th, we'll be seeing this trine and the square happening. So the trine is going to be with Saturn and Aquarius, Sun trine, Saturn and Aquarius, and then the square to Neptune in Pisces is also going to be happening at the same time. So we're going to see some really interesting things happening with that. But let's first break down the Sun trine, Saturn and Aquarius. So Aquarius is all about knowledge. It's about community. It's about friends. It's about what are you making that's unique and innovative. It's about what is your plan for the future. At least what is the vision that you have for the future? I shouldn't say plan, because that's more of Saturn's thing, is like, what's the plan for the future? It's about like long-term success of the future. And Aquarius isn't always like this, space cadet, like kind of like progressive archetype. It's more so about the idealization of the future and where you're at right now and trying to close the gap between those two. And so when we're looking at that, we're looking at every single person's like, on a more personal level. That's what you're looking at when we finally do have this trine with Saturn and Aquarius. So we're going to see a couple things like planning out vision with others, or planning to create things that are new and unique and true to your vision of the future. So this could have to do with maybe like, you having a new creative idea for maybe like a business or things that you want to achieve, or, people that you want to connect with to make some sort of change in the world. And that trine is going to have you readjust. It's going to have you get out of your comfort zone. It's going to put a little bit of pressure, but not as much pressure, I think, as like if the sun was like square, Aquarius, Saturn and Aquarius. And so it's really nice because it does add to that ability to plan for the future. And it's really looking at that focus more about the planning aspect and not just doing it. So while we do have this very quick energy happening at the beginning of Gemini season, we're seeing the planning kind of coming in later. And I think that's a nice thing to kind of be able to know. At the beginning of Gemini season, it's just kind of like go, 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 go. But towards the end of Gemini season, it's kind of like about the reflection and looking back and then continuing to plan for the future. As we get closer to the end of Gemini season, remember we're coming into Cancer season, which is that second pivot. It's that turn. And so this is where we're starting to see the transitionary kind of like element or, side of Gemini, where it's about, phasing into Cancer, not just shedding things away, but also, maybe clinging to the security of the future, or clinging to things that, make us secure, remembering the things that really matter. We can also see like committing to furthering your knowledge, not only through technology and books, but also through pooled knowledge of your network or your community. So learning with friends, learning from friends. Maybe you enroll in a new school or a new program where you're learning some sort of trade, or you're, getting a new certification or something like that. Could very much be that trine, that sun in Gemini trine Saturn and Aquarius. It's all about like solidifying and making structure for the future, or for that dream that you have, or for that goal. And it can very much be about other people helping you. And I think that's what I love about that trine of Saturn, is or about Gemini season in general this year. It's so much about asking for help. And for those that are a bit uncomfortable with that, I honestly, I'm not trying to like sound cold, but I'm gonna have to tell you, your best bet is to kind of get over it. But because I think without the help from others, even like on a small scale, it's gonna be really rough. So much of even the square is about, the square with Neptune is about unifying with others. And so while I'm sure there will be some rocky points, towards the end of Gemini season, especially as we get up there in degrees, as the sun gets up there in degrees, things get a bit more intense, yes, but I would say, definitely networking and like joining up with people or asking for help in some sense of the word is going to be really helpful to get you to where you want to go. So we also have like serious conversations concerning the future. And I'm talking about like real, like make or break conversations, especially when it has to do with like commitment to a goal or where we want to go. There is no room for like the whole like will I, won't I kind of situation. And I'm talking about like, for you yourself, maybe having that conversation with yourself, but also in particular when it has to do with other people as well. I just went through this like, a couple days ago, so I'm already feeling it. But we could really see a lot of that, people, Saturn is a no bullshit kind of planet. And so it's really going to focus in that trine with Saturn and Aquarius to the Sun in Gemini is really going to hone in like it's going to, I guess, add value and not just structure, but it's really going to be a bit more strict on the whole back and forth that's happening. Saturn essentially says there's no time for that. Like we need to make a decision, you need to go ahead and commit to something. And if that's what you're committing to, that's where you're going to go. But if you do all of this, then you like, I don't even know what this is, but like, if you're all like loosey goosey with it, then you're not going to get much of anywhere. And so it's those make or break, decisions. And it's really asking you to kind of like focus quite a bit on what it is you really want and go after it, execute, not just plan, execute. Self-teaching and DIY projects, as well as like pursuing, DIY pursuits or, just teaching yourself new things or other people like teaching you things. But in particular, you teaching yourself things, being self-taught is such a big part of the trine to Aquarius. Aquarius literally is, learning information. Aquarius is knowledge, but Aquarius, is also about the individual, outside of the collective. And so it can be like independent knowledge or you teaching yourself things. And so we can also see changing your circle leads to breakthroughs, as well as like maybe traveling to new places, which could, I guess, also like lead you to meet new people or, kind of get out of your comfort zone in that way. Fighting or like rebelling with knowledge or your words is a big thing that I think also the other side of that, which we'll see collectively, I'm sure, is going to be censorship of the truth, or at least like a version of the truth. And this is kind of where we're getting into the square with Neptune. We're talking about fighting and rebelling with knowledge or with our words. And the first thing that kind of comes to mind is the fact that the new moon in Gemini is being ruled by Mercury retrograde in Taurus, which is all about, like reevaluating values, but also like, how are you speaking up for your own values? How are you speaking up for what, you find valuable or what you find beautiful, what you are building on? How are you speaking up for that? And Taurus is a fixed sign. It likes to collect things. It's not really big on like letting things go. And so when we're talking about fighting and rebelling, like every, fight to kind of like, I think like hold on to certain informations or certain rights is like, it becomes very big right now. And I think about all the things that have kind of gone on, just in the past like 2 weeks, I'm sure that will only get bigger. And a lot of these things we're already kind of seeing, even though this trine and this square haven't happened yet. I think they'll just continue to kind of just be exaggerated the closer that we get to the trine and the square. So we're going to move on to the Sun in Gemini square Neptune in Pisces. So I was talking about censorship and like different versions of the truth. And I think that's going to become a big thing, especially with Gemini, is that, it's kind of like asking, what is your truth? Neptune is not about like booked truth. It's about intuitive truth, and it's about like what you feel is the truth. It can be just like downright delusion and lies and things like that. But I think at its best, it's about like, higher truth. Um, and Gemini is very much, it's ruled by Mercury, and so it's going to be very much about the logical mind and what actually is true. And so I say that there are varying degrees of the truth when we have this square. And so, so it's kind of like, where there's smoke, there's fire. But maybe in this situation with Neptune square the sun in Gemini, it's kind of like, maybe somebody like, makes, like a little incense burner or whatever, but there's no actual fire. It's a remnant of the truth. There's a remnant of fire, essence of fire, but there's no actual truth behind it. There's no actual fire behind it. And so I hope that makes sense, made sense. But there are varying versions of the truth, but we can really see with this square, the question being brought up, which one is backed up by facts and not emotion. Neptune is emotion. Neptune is all things that are a bit unclear. It's smoke and mirrors, literally. So I guess like my metaphor was a bit like on the nose with that one, but we can also see, just being very aware of distractions. Neptune can also be like mirrors, so like literally like smoke and mirrors. So I really want to urge everyone to be very aware of like distractions being used to keep you from the truth of the situation, not just on a collective level, but on a personal level as well. We can also see people coming together to make environmental changes, dealing with pollution of the air or water. Neptune can very much be about like poisons. It can be about viruses and like illnesses and things like that, things of that nature, especially with the trines going on to Saturn, because Saturn can be about like, like moisture, like illnesses that are carried by moisture. Again, I think we're seeing a lot of that already, and we're just going to continue to see it. But I'm thinking like, especially like, when it does come to the environment, because Neptune and Pisces can be so much about like the ocean. And when we talk about like people talking about what's the best way to kind of like handle more environmental issues, when it does come to like our oceans, what we're putting into the ocean, how we're poisoning our oceans, how we're poisoning the earth, how we're poisoning the air that we breathe, what kind of poisons are we therefore breathing back in, what kind of poisons are we therefore drinking back in through our water. I think that can become a point of debate, and really trying to therefore, like with the trine to Saturn, really getting very serious about what plan do we have to kind of rectify that. We can see some like uncovering of secrets, or being put, or even I guess uncovering secrets, true, yes, but I could also see this square with Neptune and Pisces coming out as like people being put in a hard spot on like with secrets, more so like having to kind of like weigh the pros and cons about like, is it morally right to keep a certain secret? I could see that being something that happens with the sun square Neptune and Pisces. We can also see like altered pictures or altered video. Another one that I could see happening is like literal like brain fog. Or just being misunderstood when you are trying to convey or communicate something. People don't really understand where you're coming from. I do think a lot of like great creativity and a lot of great music can come out of this square. I'm sure not without being feeling a bit creatively blocked, but I think it could be a really great square / trine with Saturn. Since they'll be happening around the same time, where a lot of like meditative time and reflection, births like certain creative projects that are just something completely new and innovative, or something that is just very popular with other people. Issues with media, just kind of like spouting information that may or may not be true. I mean, but what else is new? But really plays into people's fears around getting sick, around viruses, around poisons, and therefore creating like chaos. People not thinking for themselves, or like mob mentalities. I can only imagine the kind of like maybe even dangerous trends that could be happening like on social media during this time, as well as we get into the end of Gemini season and what's being shown on cameras. Neptune is cameras and things like that. And then with the trine of Saturn, I think there could possibly be some really harsh like punishments for those that unfortunately did not think for themselves. So it can be a lot of like, don't let your friends get you in trouble kind of thing. And so that is kind of like my little synopsis of like the major aspects that are going on in Gemini season that I personally wanted to talk about. I may add to this like as Gemini season goes, but for right now, we're going to move on into the cards for Gemini season for the signs. So I'm going to pull 3 cards since it's the 3rd sign. I didn't plan it that way, I swear. Like I was just like, I wanted to do something different for the videos this time around. And so I was like, we're going to pull 1 card for each deck. So it just happened to be 3. So for Aries, the sun in Gemini is going to be happening in your 3rd house of communication. The Mercury retrograde is actually going between your 2nd and your 3rd. So it can be a lot about like investing with others or investing into your community, investing in education. It can be a lot about like rebudgeting, like, or, looking at your budget as far as like travel, like what do you have, like, as far as like funding in order to be able to travel. I love that. So where for you Aries, we get the card Gemini for I think, and the key phrase is I think. So maybe you are kind of like figuring out what, or like maybe trying to strategize or think about like when do you want to take time off, or when do you want to take time to travel. Maybe you're investing more into education, like I said. It can be also a lot of like physical activity, like maybe you're doing like some new you're entering into a time where you're like getting more active, or starting a new workout program could even be, something that's coming in there for you, Aries. It's all about the mind with Gemini. It is about movement as well as like communication and back and forth with people. But since we do have that sextile with Mars and Jupiter, I'm going to lean more so on I guess it could be about all of it, but I think it's more about like investing in some sort of travel or communication. We have for you from the major arcana deck. This is like for anyone that wanted to know, this is the millennial tarot. It's just the major arcana though for that one. And we have the death card, which in this deck is student loans. So the death card is all about sacrifice. It's a card that's talking about purging. But it's also really, I think, reiterating that idea about investment. Scorpio represents, the underworld of things. And so you have Mars in your sign right now during Gemini season, but that also, I think, is going to be a nod to your 8th house, which, Mars also rules, is going to be like, what are you putting in? Or like, what are other people investing in you? But I think more so like, what are you investing in the other people, since Mars is in your sign? I think this is a bit more personal. That's just me. But it can be about like you having to cut out certain expenses in order to be able to maybe have more long-term success, to be able to do things that you want to do later. There's some sort of change happening, maybe like around, maybe you're thinking about moving, maybe you're thinking about traveling, or maybe you're thinking about just, joining up with people and merging with people. able to kind of create a new environment for yourself. I think there's a lot of like, merging, but also purging that's happening with you, Aries. And so that is that card for you. Let's see what we get for you for the tarot. Okay, I like that. So we have the moon card. So the moon is talking about it's a card, it's Pisces' card. And so it can be a lot about hidden knowledge, not so much like what's right in front of you, but it's really talking about, pulling on intuition, maybe not knowing exactly where something is going or where an investment might take you, but being willing to face that fear and being willing to take the risk and go ahead and just move on it because you know that it'll pay off. I would say don't let fear get the best of you. That's a big thing with, your second house being highlighted by that Mercury retrograde. So be very aware of the words that you like speak over yourself, Aries. That can be something that really helps you out, is to think positively or to focus on dreams or to focus on like maybe like pulling away or like withdrawing from other people. If, other people aren't being as supportive or aren't being as they're just not investing in as much into your dreams as you are. You want to just be very careful about that. So Taurus rising, Taurus moon, all the Taurus things. This is landing in your second house of income, values, self-esteem, all the things. Taurus, we have the first house, the body. I like that Mercury is in your first house right now, or at least the Mercury retrograde is in your first house right now. And so a lot of like, getting moving, but also Mercury is about the identity. How are you identifying, with yourself, Taurus? Are you like maybe rethinking how you show up towards other people? Are you getting more social and, reaching out and being in a place where you're, really connecting with people more? Are you someone that is just like speaking up more in general? Like, are people hearing from you? Are you yourself just very busy and other people are contacting you more? And maybe you just need to take time more to, really focus in on, where are you at as far as like what you need for yourself, not just, body and aesthetics, but also for your own personal identity. Where are you going? That's one thing I see with that first house card coming up. So let's see what we get for you for the major arcana. Oh, I like this. We get the Taurus card, which is the Hierophant. So the Hierophant in this card deck is the yoga instructor. What are you committing to? The Hierophant, it can be about like higher education, whether it be spiritual or like actually like, being in a situation like where you're in a school. So are you like investing in yourself? I would guess you probably are, especially when it does come to information. But it's, the Hierophant is a card that's really talking about the commitment to that information or to yourself that we can see coming up there. So let's look at the tarot. Okay, so I love that. So we actually got the Hierophant again. So obviously some sort of commitment and communication is really being emphasized here. And I can't help but think that it's, commitment to yourself. The Hierophant is about commitment, but I think also like because it's Gemini, it's about what kind of information are you feeding yourself? Who is there to help you? Gemini is your second house if you're a Taurus rising, but in general for Taurus, the Taurus energy, it's the second house for you. And so it's like, who can you ask for help? maybe it's joining together with other people, maybe it's networking. The second house is not just about values and like what you're spending and like what is also being gained, but it's also about helpers. Do you need an accountant, Taurus? Like, do you need to like rebudget? Which I can only imagine you are doing a lot of rebudgeting right now, and like maybe cutting unnecessary expenses. Is that something I could see happening there? But yeah, I would ask like, who's able to really help you with like kind of day-to-day activities so you can free some time up to be able to be more present in situations that are a bit more intense. So Gemini, let's see what we have for you. Gemini, this is in your first house of identity. And then, of course, Mercury retrograde currently is in your 12th, and then it'll go back into your first. We have the first house card again. So the first house card is like about identity, but it's also about like where you're going. The first house was often called the helm. So who is driving the ship? Like, do you feel like you're a bit out of control? Do you feel like you need to kind of come back to yourself? It's really asking you to focus on you and your own thoughts and your own ideas and, really building into those things. It can be about like shedding certain parts of yourself as well, with Mercury being in your 12th. It can put you in, a bit of a hard headspace when you have Mercury in the 12th. It can maybe be some pessimistic thinking, but I also think or like, your mind just being in a dark place, or, you really have to face parts of yourself or parts of like the way that you think. And, really having to come to terms with those sides of yourself. But Mercury in the 12th, I think, right off the bat says to me that there's a lot of room for building yourself up after you kind of like shed off the excess skin, so to speak. It can be about, really cleansing on an internal level first before that cleanse shows or that detox shows on the outside. So it's a lot more about like spiritual detox rather than spiritual and mental detox rather than like physical detox. And maybe you do that like, on your own. And I love that we got the Hermit card, which in this deck is off the grid, which is Virgo's card. So we have another Mercury ruled card for you, Gemini. And so this is definitely about taking time alone. The 12th house is about taking time alone. Maybe you're not talking to a lot of people right now and you're just taking time for yourself, which I'd say is absolutely what you need to be doing. Speaking of detoxing, Virgo is the sign that we get detox from, or, really focusing in on your own health or your own mental health, especially for you, Gemini, and being able to purge out, and kind of like, shed out the white noise of other people and other people's opinions so that you can kind of get back to yourself. And so that is for you. I don't know why I keep moving these cards around, but in all honesty, I probably am going to keep doing it for the rest of the video. We can also see like with the Hermit card, maybe like a teacher coming in, like a spiritual teacher or like a mentor coming in, or, a mentor that they just kind of come out of nowhere, coming in to kind of help. I might want to stop like doing the 3 cards. I don't know, because I feel like it's going to be unfair. I already started it, so I'm going to continue now, because we got the Hermit card again, like in this second deck. Maybe I should have like taken out the major arcana cards in this deck, because that's 2 signs that's happened for so far. But yeah, so you're doing detoxing. Maybe a spiritual teacher is coming in, or you're having to teach yourself something new. That can be coming in as well during your season, Gemini. Good stuff. Cancer, you have this all happening in your 12th house, and Mercury retrograde is going between your 11th and 12th house. And so it can be about like possibly losing friends, but it's also about maybe like reevaluating your goals and where you want to be at. It can be about, shedding different communities that you have. Ooh, coming in hot. It's about the South Node. I should be holding these up closer to the camera so you guys can see it. So the South Node, it's about life debts. So whenever we look at the South Node is like where we've been. It's the things that we're really good at. It's our comfort zone. It's what we've already experienced in a past life. We're not here to repeat our South Node. We're here to aspire towards our North Node. Because the North Node is where we're going. So when you have the South Node Cancer, it makes me wonder if you're feeding into fears about the future or about certain goals that you have. Do you feel like you can't master them, or you feel like you can't achieve them because you're telling yourself that you can't? Are you feeding into those self-sabotaging beliefs is my question. Because we can see that a lot with the South Node. Are you getting lazy? Are you, kind of like retreating back into your shell because you don't want to fail? It's a dangerous game with the South Node. Yes, it's somewhere where you're comfortable, but in order to achieve your greatest ideas and your highest potential, you have to aspire towards that North Node. And if you're doing this, you want to if you're falling back into that South Node, then you're not going to be able to achieve those things. And I think this might be an energy that you're in where you're letting maybe some fears take a hold of you, so to speak, and you really want to face those fears or shed them out. And this could also be like certain people coming back from the past. It wouldn't surprise me either, especially friends. Taurus is your 11th. But I would also say to that, if Taurus is your 11th, the North Node is currently in Taurus, which means that this card could be pointing more towards an eclipse, which is like, of course, like your moon ruled already. And so it can be a lot about like, people eclipsing in and eclipsing out, to really push you towards certain goals or push you towards your highest potential. So let's see what we've got for you, Cancer. We have the Magician, which is the programmer in this deck. The programmer or the Magician is saying that you have all the tools that you need to be able to succeed. You just got to put the pieces of the puzzle together. It's about being very creative. Very creative. And so maybe like getting out of your comfort zone, finding new ways and thinking out of the box when it does come to achieving goals, especially when it does come to like connecting with other people as well. So swear to God, if I get the Magician again, like I'm never doing like 3 cards. The 3 card deck, like the 3 decks again. Okay, cool. We got a different card. So we have the so in this deck it's the Daughter of Earth, but this is the Page of Pentacles. So the Page of Pentacles is about a new financial opportunity. It is about, learning something new for the fun of just learning. It's, everything new that you're being kind of like, that's being fed into you is something that you're really excited about. It's maybe like a new challenge. It's something that, it requires a lot of attention. It's something that is exciting. And so this could also be like a new financial opportunity that's coming that can maybe lead you to a goal or financial goal in particular, can really get you into a more stable space. It can, also bring up the question of like, do you want to take that financial opportunity or not? Is this giving you the money, but maybe not giving you what your soul needs to feel fulfilled? So that's for you, Cancer. For Leo, let's see. This is going to be in your 11th house of friendships, community, hopes and dreams and wishes. And then Mercury retrograde is going to be between your 10th and your 11th. So still, it's really in that career zone. And so we're looking at what steps are you kind of like putting in place to be able to be seen more. This gives me a lot of fame kind of vibes when we're talking about the Sun and Mercury retrograde, kind of like going between those 2 houses. So essentially it's about who do you know? Who is your network to be able to kind of get you to that place, which honestly I think you're really great at. Leos don't have like a they often don't have a shortage of people that are willing to, like, you know, be in their circle or to help them. You guys are very charismatic, you know, leaders and everything. And I love that we got Jupiter, the Jupiter card for you, which is literally a card about abundance. And with Jupiter actually has its joy in the 11th house. And so it can be like expanding on network. And by expanding network, you're able to get more visibility from people, and people are, you know, able to find out more about you, or you're able to be elevated and able to be seen more, if you're trying to like put out like a product, or you're trying to like up business, or, you know, you're just trying to kind of climb up the ladder when it comes to like your career. It can be about like people recognizing you more, or friends really pumping you up. When it comes to recognition, oh my, we have the Tower card for this. So I think this is more like a breakthrough. The 11th house is interesting because in modern astrology, at least, the 11th house is corresponded with Aquarius. And even though textbook says that the Tower card is all about Mars in textbook form, I say that this is, I personally say that this is a card that's associated with Uranus. And so I am wondering if, you know, you kind of like, it's almost like kind of people like all of a sudden, you know, really noticing the work that you're putting in, or people, you know, all of a sudden, you know, you making certain connections that are just kind of like out of the blue or out of nowhere. And then the next thing you know, your life completely changes. Some sort of breakthrough is happening, whether it be like something that's a bit more pleasant, or it's something that maybe is a bit less pleasant, but it enables you to kind of like shed things so that you can transition into a new phase, so that you're able to get that recognition that you need when it comes to work, or when it comes to, you know, like being appreciated by authority figures, or, you know, being able to talk to certain authority figures and, you know, really maybe find like mentorship, or, you know, build into your own value and your own skill set. So let's see what we have for tarot for you, Leo. Okay, we have the King of Cups, which in this deck is the Father of Water. So the King of Cups is going to be, it's asking basically what makes you happy. The King of Cups as a person is going to be somebody that is like super creative. Honestly, I think this is you, Leo, but like it's about, you know, someone that maybe is super creative, very intuitive, you know, very, you know, compassionate and emotional, or not emotional, but they, you know, are in touch with their emotions. But they are also all about their business. They don't let the creativity and I guess like the less structured side of themselves, that's more like esoteric and creative, overpower the practical side of things. They use that creativity, that intuition, that compassion in a very constructive way. Don't let your emotions get the best of you, Leo, I think is like the big thing with this one. Oftentimes when you are at the top, that's kind of like where the Tower can come in, like we did get for you. I think if you end up having like any kind of like emotional like breakdown, it's going to be really public. However, I would say, you know, the best part of this is, you know, just being about your business, and, you know, you're recognized for that work instead, for, you know, you just being very creative and people really taking note of that. Virgo, let's see, this is going to be in your 9th house. No. This is in your 10th house. But this is in your 10th house, and then we're seeing the Mercury retrograde in your 9th. There we go. So let's see what we get for you. We have Chiron. I love that. So for Virgo, we have Chiron for you. You're healing. So this is, it's all about healing. Chiron is a wounded healer, and such a big part of Virgo is about healing. It's about health. It's about routine. And so I'm wondering if you're needing to heal certain parts of how of your reputation, or how you're seen at work. Your leadership ability is kind of going through a reconstruction period, or you're just reconstructing how you work with others, how you're reaching out to others. What is your network like? Reaching outside of your comfort zone can be another one. It can also be about talking about maybe some insecurities when it does come to being recognized. I know that Virgo, a lot of times you are so great at being a behind the scenes kind of person. But I think you're really being forced into having to be a bit more public. And I think that can be a bit scary for you sometimes. This could even be about maybe some of you, launching a spiritual business. I wouldn't do anything like that until after the Mercury retrograde post shadow, but I'm also not going to tell you what to do. But the Chiron card can be about either traveling, outside of your comfort zone, or literally needing to take some time away from work to be able to kind of rejuvenate those spiritual and creative juices of yours. It can also be a lot about maybe if any of you are having some sort of legal issue, taking more time for meditation, prayer, to kind of go into a space that is a bit safer for you when it does come to just kind of grounding yourself, and especially when it does come to spirituality or something that is a bit more spiritual or internal, to be able to make sure you have your stuff together when it does come to being a bit more public. Let's see. Let's do your major arcana, Virgo. We have the Hierophant again. So making sure you have structure. The Hierophant is Taurus's card, and again, it can be about collecting things. But I think with Chiron coming in, Chiron is so much about purging or cutting off the excess so that you can heal. It's very holistic. It can be about maybe you needing to see some sort of doctor to maybe talk about health, maybe to add certain skills, or go into maybe some of you are going back to school to kind of add going back to school for work. So maybe needing to take a class, or getting a certification for work or something like that, so that you can say, hey, this is on my resume. I deserve more money, because that's a big part of this new moon in Gemini for sure. Is information becomes, or what becomes very valuable. And so I think a lot of you are really feeding into what do you know, and so that you're able to actually be able to go back and forth with people about I'm worth this, and I'm not moving off of this. Because a big part of Chiron is not just about healing, but it's about healing yourself so that you can help other people. Again, that's such a big part of the new moon in Gemini, is not just about feeding your logical mind, but what you give back as far as information to other people that you have learned. How much of that information do you kind of give back to other people? So then we have your tarot card, Virgo. Okay. We have the High Priestess, which is that meditation, that spirituality, and it's also saying that sometimes the best thing to do is wait. But I think with the high priestess in particular, it's also talking about action. It's not just talking about getting those intuitive hits and those intuitive messages. I have no doubt that you are getting all of that, Virgo. I attribute this card, not just to the moon, but to Cancer in particular, which is going to be your 11th house. And so maybe you have an intuitive friend, or you have a dream about where you're going, or how things are going to play out, as far as career, or like about like some trip or the outcome of a legal situation, or you just have an intuitive hit about like, I need to take this class. This is going to be helpful later. And so you take it. But the High Priestess is really about following intuition. But it can also be a lot about like just getting more into meditation and spirituality and all of that. And really using that when it comes to like making decisions out in the public world. The High Priestess is a bit more private. And so a lot of your private life has to really is being put in a place where it's being more solidified, where you're getting more grounded, so that you can make those more public decisions that will benefit you in the long run. Okay, let's see for Libra. For Libra, let's see what we have. This is happening in your ninth house. Yes, your ninth house. This is happening in your ninth house of spiritual beliefs, higher education, as well as like travel and legal stuff, all the things. But Mercury retrograde is going through your eighth. Ooh, Libra, how you doing? How you doing? So we have that Mercury retrograde going between your eighth and your ninth, and the sun in your ninth. So it's okay. What I will say is that it is again, it's really honing in on like what are you keeping more private? What are you keeping more secret? Maybe are you taking a trip away because you want to be a bit more distant from people? You need some time by yourself. Are you focusing in on your money and, really adding to your value, not just spiritually, but also mentally as well? And, making sure that you're investing into yourself. And that doesn't just go as far as like money goes, but it's also about like, what are you feeding your spirit with? But I think some of you are like spending some time on like, on like a trip or something. It could be like, taking a more spending more money on like spiritual courses or things like that. But I'm also thinking that maybe some of you are going to be calling in some debts as well. Or on the other hand, I could also see like maybe other people are calling in debts from you. So it's like about like the exchange. So it doesn't even have to be about like money per se. It's about like, I help you, you help me kind of thing, which I think is very much like already your energy, Libra. You are, very good at, being balanced when it comes to that. But the second house is also about values. And so it's about you recognizing your value, and anybody that isn't willing to recognize that same value that you have, you're just kind of out. And you're ready to go. And it's all about making those hard decisions, because we got the Emperor. So it's a lot about, and the Emperor is Aries' card, which is your seventh house. And so it's about like partnership. Something's happening when you're talking about like maybe like where are you going like with a partner? Like, are we going to actually really like merge or not? Like if we're not, then we gotta go. Like I gotta cut out. I gotta go experience like a new life. I gotta go outside my comfort zone. I gotta go meet new people. But I cannot stay here if we're not about to be serious about this. And I think a lot of you are having to make those tough decisions for the future that you want, and you're protecting that. You're protecting your own value, to which I say, right on, Libra. So let's see what we've got for tarot for you. We have the Hermit. Maybe are some of you deciding to just be alone? Is like being alone like better than being with somebody else? Like at this point, like seriously, I think this is more about like you saying like if it's not healthy, if it's not growing, then it's not worth my time. Which right on again. It's about like you just probably want to be more so alone right now, and you're focusing in on your own health rather than and what makes you happy and what makes you feel fulfilled, and really getting to know yourself rather than maybe feeding into other people. Because honestly, Mars in your seventh can make other people a bit combative with you, and maybe you're just really not for that, and so you're just kind of like piecing out. Scorpio. Let's see what we've got for you, Scorpio. We have the Sagittarius card, which is IC. Sagittarius is actually your second house, so this can be about like spending money on travel too, but like it can also be about like what are you believing in? What are you learning? The sun is going to be in your 8th house, but Mercury is going through your 7th and 8th. So it can be about you talking about like different values and beliefs and, you know, having those conversations with partners. In talking about like merging, like it can be like a meeting of the minds as well, like, you know, feeding into maybe like a partner's ideas and maybe like building together, or, you know, deciding that maybe you're best, you know, on your own. And so you decide to just kind of like, you know, move beyond and expand, you know, who you're partnering up with. And that's adding a lot of value to you. And you're coming into maybe some value or money or new resources because of the information that you know and that is shared with you through other people. Let's see what we have for major arcana for you, Scorpio. Off the grid. So many people have the Hermit card. All of you oh, you're just deciding not to talk to people. Like, and maybe that's just for like the beginning of the Mercury Gemini season. It could be that. But it can, I think again, it's like just like Libra almost. I think this is more not just about like you just completely Xing people out of the equation. I think it's with good reason. It's about, is it healthy or not? If it's not healthy, if it's not going anywhere, if it's not fulfilling to me, then I don't want it. That's what this card is telling me, like for both Libra and Scorpio. And, you know, sometimes it be like that. But I think some of you are, you know, cutting the cord when it comes to certain relationships. Not surprising. You had that, you know, full moon eclipse in your first. And so a lot of you is changing. And so therefore, you know, the only natural thing that follows that is like your relationships change as well. So let's see what we've got for you. We've got the 6 of Pentacles, which is actually the Moon in Taurus card. And so the Moon in Taurus, I'm like, we just had a new moon eclipse in Taurus, which was your 7th house. And so it's about like, you know, what the weighing like what you're getting in a relationship, weighing the value or like what values you put on other people or what other people are putting on you. There's some sort of exchange happening, and, you know, really having people understand that energy is an exchange. Money is an exchange. Money is value, and the energy that you give is also very valuable. And so what are people showing up with? If they want something from you, they need to show up with something else in hand as well. So that, you know, they need to bring something to the party. This can also be like when you're working with other people, like, are you fulfilled in that work relationship or that romantic relationship? If you're not, you know, it can be giving you all the warm fuzzies and everything, but are you guys having meaningful conversations? Are you getting down to what really matters? And if that's not happening, the 6 of Pentacles says that the scales are out of balance, and either something needs to be reworked, or you really have to like stand up for the values, and because that's really, you know, building into security for later. And so like change of values can really be happening when it does come to like your relationships with people, and in certain things, even like with money or like with a job or things like that. It's really talking about like values and sensuality when it does come to like relationships as well. So that's for you, Scorpio. For Sagittarius, let's see what we get. Sagittarius, we get Chiron. So this is happening in your 7th house, healing relationships. The Mercury retrograde is between your 7th and 6th house. Sagittarius, damn. Well, I guess like I can't really say damn or like say ooh, because maybe some of you want this. Like Some of you might be going through a breakup. Whenever you see like 6th, 7th house contacts, like as far as transit, that can signify there's some sort of breakup happening, either with a partner or with a job. Something is happening, and maybe some of you are taking time to heal from that. It can be like an ex coming into your life, maybe during the Mercury retrograde, and then like, very quickly, like kind of like leaving out because maybe you have closure. And that's not always a bad thing. So I guess like my first like reaction was not correct, but like because maybe some of you want that. But Chiron is like, just taking time to heal your relationships, maybe taking time to learn. If you are getting out of some situation, it doesn't even have to be with a partner. It can be like, again, with job, or like a job, or your relationship with money, or your relationship with the situation. You're just like kind of like washing your hands of it. It's asking you like to take the time to ask yourself, what did you learn? It's really asking you to heal the relationship. Through healing a relationship, you heal yourself as well, because you learn about yourself in that situation, and it helps to kind of like, heal you so that you're able to also heal your relationship so that you can have better, healthier relationships in the future. So then we have the High Priestess, which is the festival goer in this deck, which is all about intuition. It's a little bit more about seclusion as well. So again, taking time for you, really listening to your intuition and intuitive gifts, listening to those spirit guides as well. Maybe spending more time at home could also be like something that you're really just feeling right now. I'm surprised we're getting so many cards that are more so about like people not wanting to people during Gemini season than anything. Nobody wants to people, which I mean, like as a Pisces, I'm like right on. We have the Hierophant, which is another like, I really don't want to people. But it's about adding value to yourself. Through this healing, you really find, what you're willing to invest in, what you're willing to accept, what you're not willing to accept. It's really, I think, what I'm getting more for this card for you, Sagittarius, is like raising through a situation that maybe you came out of. You are raising your expectations, and having people like meet your expectations and not settling for anything less than that. If they're not willing to raise, if you're raising the bar and they're not willing to meet you there, it's kind of like, oh well. Remember, again, Gemini is all about transition, and so if you want better, you're going to have to really make some changes that make people have to do better, and such is life. So for Capricorn, see what we have for you. I didn't shuffle this. So for Capricorn, we have the 11th house, which is all about friends. So Mercury retrograde is going through your 5th and 6th. But it can also be, we can also see that the sun is going through your 6th as well. So some of you could be getting some interesting information about your health, having to reorganize, reschedule things, having to really speak your mind about like your value when it comes to like dating relationships, especially since the 5th house is about love, having to reschedule things like with children, or like, if some of you have children, having like maybe like, do a lot of like juggling or like rescheduling when it comes to their schedule. But I think it's like also about like learning to kind of reschedule things so that you can commit to like what you really love, even if it's not a person, if it's like a talent, because the 5th house is also about talents as well. It can, with the 11th house coming up, it's about like, fulfillment of those dreams. Maybe some of you do need to ask help when it does come to rescheduling, call on collective, and, maybe ask for the advice from friends, or to kind of, give you counsel when it comes to like, all the chaos that's kind of going on, to be able to kind of like compartmentalize and be able to best plan for that, since you will have, since Saturn is since Saturn is your planetary ruler, and in Gemini season, Saturn is making a trine to Gemini. It's about like planning for what is to come for the future, and maybe that has to do with friends or a community that you're in. So let's see for, I forgot to, it's hard because I'm like, I can't really shuffle this deck since it's so thin. We have Off the Grid, which is the Hermit. Again, I'm not surprised. Being a Capricorn rising, I'm not surprised. The Hermit card, it's about self-awareness. Honestly, for you, Capricorn, I get that this is just about like self-awareness. It's about like, I don't want people. What I will say is don't do that. Yes, take time for you. Take time to heal, take time to reorganize and reground yourself, but don't push people away, because I think that's another reason why this card is coming up. Is it's saying like, I know that maybe you're going through a time of transition right now, but while you're in that transition, really fight that urge to push people away, because there can be a lot of value that you're pushing away as well. So with the Hermit card, it's saying, take the time that you need, but, make sure that that is balanced. Make sure that you're still reaching out and talking to people. Some of you could also just be, being very quiet when it comes to like, communicating with friends and things like that. So, let's see. For your tarot card, we have the Knight of Pentacles, which in this deck is the Son of Earth. And so when we have the Knight of Pentacles, it's about focusing on your goal. It's about putting your all into that goal, really focusing on one thing at a time. Maybe you are really going through a time where you're having to reschedule, but you're having to put structure back into things so that everything can kind of be its own thing. You can go step by step by step. It's about a lot about planning. It's not so much about like quantity as it is about quality, and maybe you're needing to like restructure how you look at relationships, or how you look at your schedule, or how what you're committing to, and really pouring in your all into like a hobby or like a creative project, because the fifth house is like hobbies and creative projects and what you do in your free time, and talents, and pouring all of yourself into that, committing to your talents. That's really what this Knight of Pentacles is saying to me. Aquarius. And Aquarius, we have, let's see what we have for you. Let me reshuffle again. Aquarius, we have friends for you, not surprising, with all this air energy going around and that trine with the Sun and Gemini to your energy. This is happening, the Mercury retrograde is going from your 4th to your 5th. So it has a lot to do with like family, children, possibly like, closeness with family, or like what you're creating with family. The Sun is in your 5th house. And so it can be about like maybe talking to or maybe even like being a bit more intimate with partners as well, or like being a bit more private when it comes to who you're talking to, solidifying, or like actually I like that word, solidifying friend groups, and who's in your inner circle, who gets to kind of be around you, is a bit more selective, which honestly I love, because that is the Sun, Gemini. So the Sun in Gemini trine Saturn in Aquarius is like, not everybody is worth your energy, because not everybody fits in with the future that you're trying to build for yourself. We have the Hanged Man. Interesting. So the Hangman, which is the side hustler in this deck, the Hangman is about waiting. It's about changing your perspective on things. It's about surrender. One thing I will say with the fourth house, with Mercury going through your fourth house, it can be about like changing how you communicate with family, or like completely Xing out certain communications with family altogether. It can be about, or possibly like Xing out communication, not just with family, but in particular, it could be like siblings, or like not hearing from siblings, or cousins, uncles, aunts, things like that, because maybe they don't deserve your energy. But it can also be a time where you're just kind of like taking a step back. Maybe somebody's playing the victim, because this can also be like Neptune's card as well. Or it may be like you just taking more of a time where you're a bit more secluded, where you're behind closed doors a bit more. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes for you that you're really, maybe at your wit's end about, and you're having to just kind of like not give up, but like surrender to that higher power or divine intervention. Maybe you're going into a time where you're a bit more secluded because you are just tired, as far as like energetically, and you need time to rest. You need time to just kind of recoup. You need time to, rejuvenate yourself so that you can get back out there for when it really does matter, especially at the end of Gemini season in particular. So let's look at what we have for you for tarot. We have I love that, the Eight of Pentacles. The Eight of Pentacles is all about like, it's all about meaningful work. It's about what are you working on, and really chipping away at the imperfections so that things can be quality. It's a lot of like, it's focusing in like this whole Gemini season, even with the Mercury retrograde, is focusing on what do you love? What really matters. And it can be a lot about time, since Saturn is in your sign. So how much time are you spending maybe, with a loved one, or, how much time are you spending mastering a certain craft? How much time are you spending, just, feeling loving yourself, and, feeling yourself, full of love and things like that. It could be like, really taking time to reorganize and heal through maybe like affirmations, so like the words that you speak, and really paying attention to who you have around you, who's supporting you as well. You're doing a lot for other people, so I can only imagine a lot of responsibility is on you, especially since Saturn is in your sign. It's about like maybe you're feeling the pressure, and you just kind of need time to just kind of like, not just be there for other people, but also need time to put, back into yourself. So that is for you, Aquarius. Last but not least, we got Pisces. So let's see what we have for Pisces. We have Mercury retrograde, which is reinvention in this deck. So Mercury retrograde is going to be going into, it's between your, it's in your fifth house now, but it's going to go back into your fourth house. But it's a lot of just mentally needing space. The fourth house can be a lot about death. And so when we're talking about maybe like some discourse kind of happening when it does come to family members, or this could even be like you just needing to do some things like being very busy around the house, maybe like reorganizing things around your house, or like, reorganizing like budget, or like moving house can even be another thing. I'd say the same thing like for Aquarius, like maybe some of you are moving. That can be happening with Mercury retrograde, or maybe some of you are starting to reevaluate where you're living as well. And like thinking about like, or planning like a move. We have the Strength card for you, Pisces, which is the home brewer. I love that actually, because I think so much of, the changes that you're making, like maybe around home or around your schedule when it comes to home, maybe some of you are working from home, is like homemade. Like it's about like you really putting in the work, you putting it in the grit, all the behind the scenes stuff is happening and it's on your shoulders and you're, really working at that. You're reevaluating a lot of things and you're really listening to what's most authentic to you. The strength card is Leo's card, and so it's about authenticity. It's about self-expression. Maybe you're having some, big emotional blow-ups, but they're behind closed doors. I guess that's a big thing. But we can see a lot of feelings happening. So like, and this card can be really big for emotional endurance. Knowing that, you just got to kind of keep going, but also being willing to, be very honest with yourself and letting, and being honest about like, when do you need a break on things. It's about creativity as well. So really getting into your creative side and really diving into that, taking private time for yourself can really be a big thing right now, as well as, going through a time where maybe things are a bit rougher. Gemini as a sign energetically squares your energy quite a bit. And so it can be about also uncovering things and maybe having to deliver some retribution when it comes to people that aren't being super honest with you. Sun, the tarot that we have is Sun of Fire, which is the Knight of Wands. So the Knight of Wands is all about like being in a hurry. It's about haste. Don't move too fast, Pisces, but if things naturally happen fast, I also wouldn't be surprised for you. That Aries is your second house, and so it can be like money comes in quickly, or it can be like, you move very quickly. But I would also say that it might be a couple moves. Maybe there is something that happens around home life that, just happens very quickly, or you have to like, take a trip, very quickly. Can be another thing that goes on there. So that is all the signs and my review of Gemini season. I will be coming out with a new moon in Gemini video, very soon. So look out for that. But other than that, if you guys would like to book a reading with me, that will be down in the description of this video. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.